What's up, folks? Dan here. Welcome back to another episode of Q&A Tuesday. We're here with some great questions today. Last week's question for you was, who is your favorite hero or protagonist from your favorite fiction story? We're going to jump right in with Storyman, who says, hello, Dan. I'm not quite sure I have any single favorite hero slash good guy slash main protagonist I could point to because there are a lot of good characters out there. To answer the question, though, and it'll be a long answer, I think I'll cheat just a little bit and point to two characters, but they're both from the same book series. Eragon Shadeslayer and Roran Stronghammer from the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. I read that set. Well, actually, I read the first book in that series, so I don't actually know Roran Stronghammer, I don't think. They're cousins, and what I like about them is they're both very flawed heroes that struggle to reconcile all the violence and killing they have to do for the greater good, but they do so in different ways and are ultimately fundamentally different characters, though they're similar. I like to compare and contrast. Eragon is this magically powerful, extremely gifted, deadly warrior, up there with the most elite in the universe, but really he's a softer character who struggles a lot with himself and is very haunted by the terrible things he does, despite being resigned to doing them to serve the greater good. Roran is a much harder, rougher character. Basically, he's the Han Solo to Eragon's idealistic Luke Skywalker. He does the things he does less because he cares about the greater good, though he does, and more because he cares about his wife and family. He got pulled into a huge mess of events because he's Eragon's cousin, and pretty much reasons that since he's in them now, he has to help resolve them, or he and his family will never be safe. He's a very pragmatic, realist type of character, and he's not as haunted as Eragon because he realizes that to beat himself up and allow himself to be guilt-ridden is a waste of time and energy when he should be focusing on living because he or you or I could die at almost any moment. He's also an extraordinarily daring character who manages to do many of the things Eragon does, break entire sieges and armies, kill much more skilled and uber-magic hacks-empowered opponents, and do similarly nigh impossible feats without any sort of magic. Roran is kind of badass. If he was a game character, I would be recommending you take a look at him, but he's not. Wow, that was a long answer. You ain't kidding. I think I found your favorite character. I know you say you don't have one, but yeah, I think you found your favorite. Yeah, it's your favorite character. I'm calling it. Speaking of, I'm going to ask a question this time that I hope does not make you lose any more nerd points. Do you think critical, logical thought can be brought back, and if so, what would happen for it to be returned? I mean, the kind of critical, logical thinking that we've based our society on originally came from the Greeks, and it's something that's not inherent, it has to be taught, and I don't think it is being taught anymore. It seems like few people are willing to talk civilly and share their thoughts or listen anymore. I don't know, could just be me, but I think I've been kind of disappointed by the level of discourse people are willing to have lately. So, on this, you are right in that traditional philosophical logic is a thing that has to be taught. I think part of the issue also is that people mistake logic for truth, as in their own logic and rationale on a subject. For instance, let's just take, I'm going to go pseudo-political here for a second. Let's just take global warming, for instance. Now, I don't know where any of you who are watching this stand on the global warming issue, but here's the problem with individual personal rationale and logic, okay? If you are a person that lives in a cold area, okay, you're going to have a hard time believing in global warming based on your own observations and logic. Now, you can do research online and in books and talk to other people and stuff like that, but you're going to have an issue using your own logic and rationale to go ahead and process global warming in your head. And even worse is if you live in an area like, let's say, for instance, New Jersey, where I live. In New Jersey, we've had very cold, very harsh winters for the past couple of years. Now, counterintuitively, this is because of global warming. This is because the Arctic has been warming to the point where it's pushed the normally stationary cold air up in the Arctic Circle down towards us. But a lot of people in New Jersey don't realize that because it's just outside of your purview unless you go looking for it. So, logic and rationale, two different things, first of all. Classical philosophical logic, different from individual logic and rationale. A lot of the issue that we have right now as a society, we have a whole lot of information coming at us at once. We don't have a way of filtering that information very readily, and a lot of it is false. On top of that, we currently seem to have culturally the opinion that opinions are fact. The idea that, yes, everyone is entitled to their opinion. That is something that you can say because that just means you're allowed to think what you want to think about stuff. However, people take that to the point where they think, oh, that means my opinion is automatically right because I came up with it myself. There's usually a right or a wrong answer in any given situation. There's usually, not always, but most of the time, a factual, yes, this is correct. No matter what you may think, this is what's correct because evidence, reasons, blah. And I think a lot of people right now are confusing individual rationalization and logic based upon preconceived notions with actual logical investigation of a subject, which is where you disengage from your own personal biases as best you can and instead look at things clear-cut as they are and debate the merits of a position based upon facts. So I do agree with you that discourse has gone a bit south. I do agree with you that teaching proper logical discourse and proper research methods is important. I don't know if we're ever going to get there. We'll see. We have a lot of steps to go before we get to that point, I think. As for what would happen if it did return, theoretically we might have more civil discourse, yes. However, at the same time, it's not like the Greeks were any less warlike or there was any less infighting with them than there was with us. So, I think we're doing all right. But I think it's important, something that people need to learn, something that people really need to learn, is the idea that no matter how impartial you think you are still biased. The end. If you are not biased, you're either dead or a robot, all right? You're not human. So because of that, I think a lot of people do not realize that they have biases, and this is on both sides of the line on any issue you're talking about. A lot of people don't realize that they have biases. A lot of people think that they do not have biases, or if they do have biases, that it's correct. Like, well, listen, I know I'm not impartial on this subject, but I'm right, so it doesn't matter. You know, that kind of thing. So I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see how things continue to develop. I personally think that we're in a big transitionary stage as a species. What with global communication, increased globalization of resources, stuff like that. I think we're living in a very big transitionary period right now. We're going from the idea, basically, we're taking the next step up from nation states, all right, which is where we hung for a long, long, long time as a species. Like we went family groups, tribes, the towns, cities, nation states. Now we're possibly seeing the next stage beyond that, becoming more of a global species than a regional species. So we'll see. It's going to be rough, but I think we'll do all right. Storyman says, anyhow, have a great day/week, and I am looking forward to more on the channel and the blog. Thank you, Storyman. Thank you for watching. Thank you for asking an awesome question. I enjoyed that one. That was cool. Also, just a note, I mentioned in last week's Going Superhuman episode that Unleashed the Ultramind would be returning this week. It will probably not be going up today because right now I'm looking at my clock. I am still editing the episode that's supposed to go up today. It's 3:07 p.m. I have to go to my job in about 45 minutes. So my guess is that it's not going to be done editing it until tomorrow. So look for Unleash the Ultramind tomorrow. Moving on, we have Your Name, who says, hey Dan, my favorite hero would probably have to be Hercules, mostly because he's super strong and stuff. My question for you is, after seeing Doctor Strange, I was wondering if there's any sort of real way to possess supernatural powers by harnessing the power of your spirit. What is your opinion on this? I'd like to know. I'm going to be real unpopular here and say absolutely not. I know it's something that a lot of people want to believe, that, you know, you can unlock your inner spirit and gain superpowers and stuff like that, but I will say this, that in the history of recorded history and scientific inquiry, not a single human being has managed to do that. Not a single one, at least not in any verifiable way known to man. Now, there are some people that will believe differently, and that is absolutely fine. I'm just saying, from my personal opinion, no. Unlocking the inherent biological capabilities of your brain and body can do some very cool things. Like there's that dude that is capable of surviving an extreme, what's his name? Wim Hof. I don't think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but that's how you spell it. Who's able to survive in very, very cold conditions and is able to, and they've discovered that part of the way he's able to do that is through meditation and the ability to consciously induce his body into burning what's called brown fat, the thermogenic fat that your body can use to heat itself, which is something that some Tibetan monks can do as well. So I believe that there is a lot that our bodies are physically capable of that if we train intensively to make them do, seem almost superhuman or supernatural. But I don't think anybody's throwing fireballs or turning back time with the Eye of Agamotto anytime soon. That's just my opinion on it. You may have different opinions, but that's where I'm at. Thanks, Dan. Have a great week. You have a great week as well, Your Name. Thank you for a great question. I am more than willing to go further into that subject if you want, because it is something I've researched quite a bit, but in my youth, as it were. Moving on, we have BenRex777, who says, there are a lot of noble characters in those stories. He's talking about good guy and protagonists from fictional stories, and even more who do good deeds, but the most heroic person for me is Gandalf the White. He has power, influences a whole world and era, and most importantly, fights for good without backing down an inch. Nice. And now the question for you. What kind of magical or fantasy or other fantasy power would be the most useful power to help you in your daily life? And which one would be the most fun? No life-threatening or offensive ones. Most useful power for me in my daily life would be the ability to, like, basically freeze time, sort of, like, so I could go and get a lot of stuff done without, like, if you ever, what was that movie with the kid? There was a movie that when I was younger that came out where the kid had a watch that could, like, freeze time around it, but he himself was able to move at, like, super fast speeds and interact with stuff, like, you know, at the point where basically everybody else is standing still. That would be one of the most useful powers in my daily life, just because I find myself running out of time more than anything else, like how Unleash the Ultramind is probably not going up until tomorrow, because I only have 45 minutes to edit it and upload it, and that's not going to happen. So I would say the ability to freeze time around me and just have, you know, whatever I'm interacting with locally be unfrozen. That would probably be best. Most fun, I think, would be flying. I would love to be able to fly. That'd be super cool. Flying would be awesome. Teleporting would also be really cool. What else? I think invisibility would be fun too, and not that I would use it necessarily for nefarious means. I wouldn't be like, you know, sneaking up and peeping on people, but I would want to. I'm a glutton for information and stuff like that. I would love to be able to just go and sneak into behind closed doors stuff and see what goes on in, you know, various governmental sectors and stuff like that. Like I would just, I'd be all over that. So that'd be really cool. I think going invisible would also be pretty cool. So those would be my picks. Most useful would be freezing time. Most fun would probably be flight, invisibility, or teleportation. Great question. I love that. Benny says, have a nice week. You have a nice week as well, Benny. Thank you for watching. In answer to my own question, my favorite protagonist slash hero slash good guy would probably have to be Link from Legend of Zelda. Absolutely my favorite out of video games, at least. Followed up by... If I didn't pick Link, I think I'd have to go with... No, you know what? Link's it. That's it. Link is my favorite from video games, at least. Possibly all fantasy and or fictional worlds. Just because he's, you know, incredibly determined. He is, you know, he's the prototypical good guy. He's weaker than the guy he's fighting. He's not as strong as Ganondorf is. He's got, you know, tools to deal with it and stuff like that. But his whole thing is just he has courage. He's brave. He goes and he does things that should not be doable, that other people are afraid to do, and he does them just because it's the right thing to do, and he's got to save the day. So that would be probably my favorite, would be Link from Legend of Zelda. So yeah, your question for next week. We've got Christmas coming up. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I'm sorry, but play along with this anyway. If you could pick one gift for Christmas, no price tag, one thing that you want for Christmas, there's no price tag associated with it. Anybody could get it for you. It's just the one thing that you really, really want. What is the one Christmas present that you really, really, really want? Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Ask me a question for next week. And as always, remember, live boldly, change the world, and continue to be awesome. Bye-bye.